Goals are not to get. Goals are to grow. The paradigm is a multitude of ideas in your subconscious mind. It's like a program in your subconscious mind that controls your behavior, which produces the results.
So when you think a new thought and then dare to claim that new thought, meaning to speak it, then you literally are placing an order to the universe.
And so the more you love yourself, the easier it will be to find patience. The more patience, the quicker the manifestation. Truly.
What you visualize, what you say to yourself, and how you feel about yourself, and what actions you take is going to determine what you go in life.
What's the first step to getting out of our paradigm?
Well, the first step is to be aware that you have a paradigm that's controlling you. Mm-hmm. The paradigm is a multitude of ideas in your subconscious mind. It's like a program in your subconscious mind that controls your behavior, which produces the results. And if you don't change the paradigm, the results that change are going to be temporary. That's why people lose tons in their lifetime that go on diets. They lose 10 pounds, gain 15. They lose 20, gain 25. Mm-hmm. And the paradigm keeps bringing them back to a particular point in life. Well, the paradigm is a program that controls our habitual behavior. And almost all of our behavior is habitual. We operate like robots.
And it's not even our habits. It's someone else's we were given.
Well, we inherited, that's true. We're programmed through somebody else. Mm-hmm. There's genetic program, and then there's environmental programming. Yeah.
So we act like robots. We don't see what's going on. We have this idea, for instance, I want to make $100,000 a year, $100,000 a month. But then we aren't able to achieve that because our programming's still going the other direction.
Well, first of all, you've got to take a look at the law of compensation. Mm-hmm. The law of compensation states the amount of money you earn is always going to be in direct ratio to the need for what you do.
Yep.
Your ability to do it.
Yep.
And the difficulty there is in replacing you. The need for what you do. If the need for what you do is not great, there's all kinds of people who do what you do. Mm-hmm. The odds of earning a lot of money, even if you're good at it, is rather slim. If the need for what you do is great, the need for what I do is enormous. Everyone in the world, I don't care where you are, I don't care what the culture, everyone wants to improve the quality of their life. Mm-hmm. That's inherent within the human being. And there's very few people know how to do that. So there's a tremendous need for what I do. Number two is your ability to do it. I've become very good at it. Mm-hmm. Because I've spent over 50 years perfecting it, studying it, understanding it, acting on it. So I'm very difficult to replace, so my income goes up. You've not only got to find something where there's a great need, then you've got to get very good at it. There can be a great need. If you're not very good, you're not going to do very well. So you've got to take the law of compensation into consideration. And then you've got to start observing your own behavior. And you will see that there's a pattern in your behavior. And that pattern starts when you wake up in the morning. Mm-hmm. You probably wake up about the same time every day. If you sleep in, you always sleep in. If you're late, you're always late. There's a habitual program that's being expressed. So you watch what you do. And there's a pattern there. If you're living with someone, you see their patterns. You see them very quickly before you see your own. Yeah. And you've got to realize that these patterns that we're involved in, these behavioral patterns, are producing the results in our life. Now, I got Prudential to raise their sales by hundreds of millions of dollars by doing two things. One, they had to be hand to hand, skin to skin, with a very live prospect before 9 a.m. Number two, they had to ask every person they met to purchase a minimum of $100,000 worth of insurance. Now, that was back around 1973, when $100,000 was a lot more than it is today. And I said, if you just do those two things, you don't have to change anything else. Their sales went up by millions. Now, prior to that, they were hardly ever in front of a prospect before 9 a.m. anywhere in the company. And they hardly ever asked anybody to buy $100,000 worth of insurance. So they were selling more $100,000 policies in every office in a week than they'd previously been selling in 6 months.
This sounds like a combination of increasing a level of awareness or what's possible, sort of like Sir Edmund Hillary climbing to the top of Everest, and also discipline. Does that sound right?
Yeah, it does. You need the discipline to form the new habits. Mm-hmm. And discipline is something that, again, most people don't understand. We're raised with discipline. We think discipline is generally a form of punishment in most people's mind. This discipline is really the ability to give ourselves a command and then follow it. When you say a person's disciplined, they're a disciplined individual. They decide what they're going to do, and then they discipline themselves to do it. So if they say they're going to do something, you know damn well they're going to do it. Mm-hmm. Well, you've got to develop that kind of discipline in your life. This I will do. And that's what I teach them. They've got to tell themselves, I will be in front of a prospect before 9 a.m. every morning. And it's not an easy thing to do because their body was probably in the habit of clutching a coffee pot somewhere around 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock in the morning. And they had to stop doing that and start to do the new thing. See, when you go to make a new habit, you got to break an old habit. Nature abhors a vacuum. You got to create a space for the good that you desire.
So where do you place your focus then? On the new habit, I would assume.
On the new habit.
So let's fast forward for there. You say something that is to think our dreams into reality. What do you mean by that?
Well, you know, The Secret led a lot of people astray.
Yeah.
Secret, I think The Secret did a phenomenal job. Rhonda Byrne deserves everything she got from it. But it also left a lot of people confused. It left people with the idea that they could have anything they want. And that's not true. You can't have anything you want. Wants are in our conscious mind. That's where our thoughts are in our conscious mind. So we don't become what we think about. Solomon had it right. He says, as a person thinketh in their heart. You've got to take the want and turn it into a desire. You've got to plant it in your heart of hearts, in your subjective mind, the subconscious mind. In other words, you've got to internalize the idea.
Just means believing it before we see it.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. If you don't believe it before you see it, you're never going to see it. You've got to internalize it, and you've got to live with it. You've got to know you've already got it intellectually and emotionally, and it's only a period of time till it manifests in form.
Post-traumatic growth. And a lot of us are stuck, certainly on the other side of post-trauma. What is it, and how do we use it?
Well, I'm not really familiar with Michael's concept in post-traumatic growth. I did learn something very valuable from Michael. He's a good friend.
Yeah.
And he said, in any situation, regardless of the situation, there's 3 things you've got to do. 1, you look at it and say, it is what it is. Accept it. Mm-hmm. It's either going to control you or you're going to control it. Number 2, harvest the good. Just look for the good in the situation. And number 3, forgive all the rest. Forgive means to let go of, completely abandon. So in every situation, doesn't matter what it looks like, it is what it is, accept it. Harvest the good. There's good in it. The more you look for, the more you're going to find. Could be a terrible looking situation. If you look for the good in it, you're going to find it. Mm-hmm. And number 3, forgive all the rest. Let all the rest go. Just release it. Let it go.
I love that. So, in fact, in your book, you talk about having, I believe it was an aorta heart repair. and accepting it is what it is. And then you were back doing what you were doing what you love in no time at all.
So, well, that was a big deal. I was in Los Angeles. I was working Saturday and or Sunday, and Sunday afternoon I wasn't feeling very good, and so a doctor came in and gave me a B12 shot, and then he told me to drop by his office in the morning. I went in and he checked me over and he said, "You've got a problem." He sent me over to a cardiologist at Cedars-Sinai, and like that, I was in the hospital with open heart surgery.
Wow.
And they had to replace the aortic valve. There had been bacteria on it. They don't know how it happened. I don't know how it happened. But I was on the road 90 days. I was out. That was 5 years ago.
What was your mindset that helped you get back on the road so quickly?
Well, oddly enough, I spoke on the Sunday. Michael Beckwith was speaking on the Saturday. There was a group of us there. And it is what it is. Accept it. That's what Michael was teaching on the Saturday.
Yeah.
And I loved it. I wrote it down. I thought, that is excellent. I just treated the situation at the hospital. It is what it is. Accept it. Harvest the good. Forgive all the rest. I had been raised to believe what Michael Gerber said: if your business requires your presence, you don't have a business, you have a job. So I thought, well, I'm going to find out if I have a business or not, because I'm grounded. I'm not going to be able to work for next 90 days. My business kept on going. Nothing happened. Sandy Gallagher, my business partner, did a phenomenal job. She runs the company anyway. That was the good in it. And I forgive. I let all the rest go. I had a great attitude. And the doctor told me, I told the doctor one time, I said, this is the best hospital in the world. Everybody's so positive. He says, that's because you are.
A reflection of what you see.
Yeah.
I love it. You're talking here about the law of thinking, and there's a quote, I'm not sure if it's yours or not. It's setting a goal you can achieve is like dying. It's not inspiring. You won't get much support from others. You'll probably quit.
Well, that sounds like something I'd say, and I think it came from a seminar, and it's true. You see, there's no inspiration in goals you know you can do or you think you can do. And that's where most people go. They set a goal to do what they know they can do. There's no growth. You're going sideways. You've been there. You've done that. Goals are not to get. Goals are to grow. That's the purpose of a goal, is to bring the best out of yourself. So if we go from what we know we can do to what we think we can do, well, that's where you're thinking, if she does this and if he does that, and if this money comes in from here and if that comes in from there, then I could accomplish this goal.
Yep.
Well, that's doing what you think you can do. There's no inspiration in that. It's not a win-win concept. But when you go after what you want, you have no idea how you're going to get it, but you want it.
Yes.
Well, when you understand that if you will internalize what you want and feed it, it turns into a desire. And Waddell says desire is the effort of the unexpressed possibility within, seeking expression without through your action. You've got to go after things. You have absolutely no idea how you can get them, but you want them. You really want it.
So this is confusing to me. We really want something. We have to go after it. We write it down. We want it with all of our hearts. We don't know how to bring it about, sort of like in The Secret, going from one coast to the other coast.
Yeah.
Where in the world, after we switched that paradigm and said, this is possible, I just don't know how, but it's possible, where do we go from there?
You just think of how to do it. The X is at the bottom left-hand side of a page. The star is at the right top side of the page, so they're kitty corner. Now, let this line where the X is represent a frequency of thought.
Okay.
That's a frequency of thought.
So there's a lower frequency and a higher frequency of thought.
Well, there's a zillion frequencies.
Yeah.
If a person could imagine a lined page of paper, each line represents a level of vibration or a frequency.
Okay.
Well, you're living on a particular frequency right now.
Mm-hmm.
The thoughts you're thinking control the frequency you're on. Your body, your mind and body is in a vibration.
Yeah.
And you're operating on a specific frequency. And the only thing you can attract is that which on that frequency. Now, if we raise the bar and we say, and I'm going up here.
Yep.
That's where I want to go. I don't know how to get there. We've got to understand there is a place. And the second we make a decision, I'm going to do that, we flip our brain onto that frequency. And then the only thing we start thinking are thoughts that are on that frequency. And they're the thoughts we need to think to get to where we're going. So the way will be shown. You're told, seek ye first this kingdom in its righteousness. Well, you're told to look within for the kingdom in its righteousness. It operates by law. And all these things will be given to us. You will attract everything to you, and you attract it by law because you're in harmony with it. It's almost like you're on an AM frequency where you are right now, and the star is on the FM frequency. You're never going to get the music that's on the FM frequency as long as you stay on the AM frequency. You got to move on to a higher frequency. You got to change the dial. You got to change your thinking. And as you flip your brain onto that higher frequency, your thoughts start to change. You start to change. The people that you attract into your life change. Everything changes. The trick is to move on to that higher frequency and stay on it. You've got to see yourself already there.
Can you tell us about Sister Brown?
Sister Brown. Sister Brown was the woman, she was like the matriarch of our church. And Sister Brown was one of the most loving, embracing, nurturing, compassionate women anyone could ever meet. She just exuded love. Like when she sweat, I promise you that was love coming from her pores. And everyone wanted to be like her. But Sister Brown was always broke. We're always doing fundraisers for her to help her pay her rent or to help her. She just never had money. So the relationship I got to being a godly woman, modeling myself after Sister Brown, because I wanted to be Sister Brown, was that I couldn't be spiritual. I couldn't be a servant leader. I couldn't be of great compassion and have money. What I learned from Sister Brown was, and Sister Brown didn't teach this to me consciously, it was an unconscious lesson, was that I had to be broke in order to be a true giver, a true child of God, a true servant leader, a true spiritual being, that I could not have a lot of money. That was the unconscious lesson that I learned from Sister Brown.
And then your family as well, they had kind of a negative, not picking on them, but a negative money mindset as well.
Yeah, it was just an underdeveloped mindset to money. We learn what we've learned, we repeat what we've been taught. And I'm sure from my great grandparents' days, money was in scarcity. It was in scarcity. My grandmother tells me today, she's 87 years old. She said that she moved out to California from Little Rock, Arkansas, because in California, they were paying $5 a week. And that was a huge raise for her. And so my family grew up with the lack and limitation mindset. And so my mother would always say, this money is burning my pocket. And I grew up thinking that money was hot and that you couldn't keep it and that you had to release it really fast. So we always had a week where we were abundant and we had all the food we needed and all the groceries we needed. Then we always had a week where we were broke. And I was eating wish sandwiches. I wish there was some meat on the sandwich.
Oh,
and so my relationship to money was, it was hard to get. Scarcity was average, and money was going to burn a hole in our pocket, so we couldn't keep it.
Can you tell us what can we learn? Maybe one example from Steve Siebold about how rich people think.
One major thing is that rich people plan long term. Scarcity-based broke people plan for 30 days. Rich people will walk out a year, 3 years, 5 years, even 10 years. But a scarcity-based limited average mindset is walking out 30 days at a time. And he also talks about how we raise our children, a limited mindset, a scarcity-based mindset. You raise your children to survive. You don't raise your, versus a wealth mindset. You raise your children to have wealth. You talk about wealth creation. You don't talk about hanging in there. You don't talk about survival. You don't talk about a 30-day plan. You talk about a long-term 3-year, 5-year, 10-year plan with your children. So a wealthy person's mindset, their children are expecting wealth. And I just believe that that's not a mindset isn't something that you can only adopt if you're in a certain family. A mindset is something you can adopt if you've been exposed to that way of thinking, which is why I exposed some of the points in his book, as disruptive as they were. And when I read them, Michael, they were disruptive to me because I come from a hustle, scarcity-based mindset longer than I've had an abundant mindset. So I found myself, I live in an abundant mindset. I'm an abundant thinker all day long, but some of his points were so straight, no chaser between the eyes that I found myself mildly offended. And so I had to write in the book, this is not meant to offend you. This is meant to wake you up.
What's a money blueprint?
I love the money blueprint because the money blueprint really is an eye-awakening awareness when you understand your money blueprint. So when you look at your relationship to money, you have a conscious, meaning here's what I know about money, and then you have an unconscious. Here's what's influencing me about money that I'm not even aware of. And your money blueprint is the things that are influencing you and your decisions around money. So you have a gender blueprint, meaning as a woman, as a man, we are wired and taught to relate to money differently. You're taught that money is, whether you adopt it or not, whether adopted or not, you're taught as a man that money is an indicator of your masculinity, of your manhood, of your ability to provide. And as a woman, I'm taught get a really good job, or at least be really cute and get a man with a really good job. And so money is less important to me. That's what we're taught. You have a spiritual blueprint to money. You know, like I just said from the Sermon on the Mount, you're taught about spirituality, and spirituality relates to money, how that we can sacrifice now and not have much, or tithe and give 10% to the church, or prosperity is godly, or whatever that spiritual blueprint is, it's influencing you. And the spiritual blueprint that's influencing you is the one that you grew up in, not necessarily the one you're in now. It's the one you grew up hearing, even if you're no longer in that religion. We have an economic blueprint, meaning the way that money was managed in your home, the way that you related to money, you saw your parents relate to money in your home, that's had an influence on you. So if money was divisive in your home, your relationship to money is that it could be divisive. So you negate it. I don't want a lot of money. I don't need a lot of money. Money is distracting. Well, you go back and look at how money was managed in your household. You may see that money was divisive. Or if the pursuit of money took your parents away from you all the time, then you have a fear that success and financial success might interrupt your relationship with your family or your loved ones. So there's an economic relationship to money. And then there's a spiritual, economic, there's a gender relationship to money. And then, there's how your family related to money in general. How was it? So there are 5 different areas where it's influencing you and your relationship to money, that when you look at the blueprint, it's almost like here, and you want to find out what's the chatter back here that's causing the conversation right here, that's causing my actions right here.
From there, let's go and talk about maybe how we can begin to reframe things in our mind, and even beyond that, make a big splash in the puddle. How do we use affirmations to begin living the rich life?
Affirmations are, that's the beginning. Well, right before an affirmation is the mind. So recognize that your life is your mental conversation unfolding in front of you. So when you think a new thought, and then dare to claim that new thought, meaning to speak it, then you literally are placing an order to the universe. You literally are adding momentum to that thing that you call your truth because of what you said. So the statement I am is very powerful because the unconscious mind cannot determine if whatever comes after I am, the unconscious mind only sees it as true. So you can use your mind to either drive you forward or to keep you back. You literally, and when you get how much control you have over who you're being and what you're doing and how you're showing up, because most people are walking through life feeling like they're not in control of their lives. Well, listen, when you make the statement, I am, your mind goes true. Whatever you're saying, I am dumb. True. I am brilliant. True. I am invincible and I can overcome every single one of these. True. Woo. And so, right, like true. So whatever you say to be true about yourself is actually true about yourself. And your body and your habits will begin to work in alignment with your declaration. So keep declaring when you're going through something. I am through this powerfully. I am through this with grace and ease. I am through this with mightiness. When you want to be loved, I am lovable. I am embraceable. I am long-term relationship material. And your body goes, yes.
How do we then, if we step back a step from that, how do we truly envision our abundant life?
I love to do visualizations. As you see in the book, I do a lot of visualizations. I love to do visualizations, but I love to add, instead of just description to the visualizations, I love to add the emotion. So when you begin, whenever I'm working with a new student and I'm working on helping them shape their future, I have people step onto my virtual campus and step into my office so that they can really design the path that they want to live their future. The first thing I do is to go, how do you feel? How do you feel when you have, when you've released all your debt and you're moving towards 6 figures or you're moving towards 7 figures? How do you feel? What's going on in your heart? So when you do visualizations, you literally give yourself permission, take a deep breath and see yourself living out that experience and feeling everything that comes with, not rushing through it. And literally, I've done visualizations where I'm crying, other people are crying. And all of a sudden, to me, the visualization is the gas. The feeling is the turbo boost.
How do we dive in? Because it can't just be about vision. It can't just be about affirmations. We need to dive into some of the nuts and bolts, don't we? How do we dive into the numbers?
The first thing you do is you make a plan. Make a plan. Most people want to start running without a plan. Well, consider a plan. If you have a plan, you're saying, this is my GPS. I know where I want to get to. I want to get right there. I want to get right there. So I need to design a plan versus just kind of willy-nilly. If you create a plan, then you only need to work the plan. If you don't create a plan, then you have to keep making up the plan, right? And so the first thing is to say, where do I want to get to? And what are the 3 major milestones that show me that I'm on the right path, right? So whether that's you want to touch 20 million people, in the next 3 years. So a major milestone is that by year 1, you set up all the infrastructures to do that. And you've already touched over 500,000 people. And then year 2, you 10x it by buying more Facebook ads, by doing this. So a plan says, I not only want to get here, but this goal is so important to me that I'm going to write out a detailed plan complete with 3 major milestones or 6 major milestones. And under each major milestone, there are at least 5 action steps. That's how you turn a plan into a reality.
I love it. How much of a plan did you have and how did you get your Audi A8?
That's so funny because I don't talk about cars a lot. I'm not I kept calling it the wrong thing when I first got it, but I decided that I wanted to buy an Audi because it was a different style car. It's unique. And at the time I was driving an hour and 15 minutes to work and an hour and 40 minutes to see my family. So I needed something that really made me feel like I was in a spaceship, and an Audi was that. And so I've always been really afraid. Are you talking about my salesman thing? The thing I did with the salesman? I've always been really afraid of salesmen, especially car dealers, because they would always sell me something I didn't want, or they would talk me into something that I wasn't ready for. So when I went to buy my Audi, I said, okay, this time I'm a grown woman now. I'm really a grown woman. Now I bought a car in my 30s and everything, but when I mean grown woman, I'm owning my power that I'm going in. So I looked online. I saw what the Audi cost. I wrote it down. I got a piece of paper, literally about this big. I'm going to do exactly the size.
All right.
I got on a piece of paper.
Post-it note.
Right. I write the number down. It's obnoxiously low. Right.
And you've done your research.
I've done my research. I know exactly. Not only did I know exactly how much it cost, but I also knew the other 2 Audi dealers that would sell Audi in Southern California. So I not only made an appointment for the Audi dealer that I went to, I made 3 appointments. I made the one that I was going to, all with this in my hand. I made the next one for 3 hours later. So the first one was about 9, I think, and the second was about noon, and the third one was about 3. And I had a concert, a Brian McKnight concert I was scheduled to go to at 7. So I knew I was going to the Brian McKnight concert in my brand new Audi A8. And it just was a matter of who's going to buy it, who was going to sell it to me. So I go into the first dealership and I put it down. I said, hi, I want to buy your Audi A8 on the showroom floor this current year. And this is what I want to buy it for. And I gave him the Post-it note and he looked and he went, what? I can't sell it to you for that. I said, okay, thank you. Can you go find the person that can? And he kind of looked at me and he goes, well, I can't sell it. I said, great. Can you go find the person that can? So he leaves, he goes and gets his sales manager, comes out, they have the Post-it note, and he goes, ma'am, you want to buy an Audi A8 for this? I said, absolutely. He goes, well, that's not our sticker price. I said, I'm aware. That's why I wrote it down for you so you can understand what my sticker price is. And he goes, well, I'm not authorized to sell you an Audi A8 for this. I said, oh, great. Well, can you go get the person that can? I said, let me be clear with you. I said, I'm going to pull up in my driveway tonight in a brand new Audi A8. This is what I'm paying. Now, I've also made an appointment with the Carlsbad Audi dealer with Jeff because I knew they knew each other's names. And then after Jeff, at 3:00, there's an appointment with Don over at San Diego downtown Audi dealer. I said, so either Jeff or Don are going to sell me an Audi or you can. You choose. This is my sticker price. So then he leaves and he comes out and the next guy that comes out is the general manager. And the first question he asked me is, are you a business owner? Cause you're hardball negotiating with us. I said, as a matter of fact, I am. I said, but really, I'm just a woman who wants to buy a car. And so he said, ma'am, is it out of your budget to buy the car for more than this? Is that why you have this number? I said, no, that number just looked good to me. So I walked out with my Audi and I paid this sticker price. And I went to the Brian McKnight concert and out of 450 people, I raised my hand he asked for all the single women to raise their hand. I raised my hand. I'm waving my hand. He picks me. I go up on stage and he serenades me with a song and gives me 2 dozen long stem red roses. So that was a good day. Audi A8 at the sticker price of my choice. And I was serenaded by a Grammy Award winning artist. So, but it really was me taking a stand for my voice and becoming non-negotiable. Now, when I went into the finance department, they began to add the finance charges onto it. And I said, I'm sorry, you're not clear. I said this price. I said, so you might need to take that sticker price down again because this is the end of the line of what I'm paying. And when I tell you, everyone there was flustered. And it wasn't my intention to make them all joyful. I came to buy an Audi. I didn't come to make your day. And you don't have to sell me the Audi if you don't want to. So when I began to realize that, wait, I got options, you have options, it was a beautiful deal. It was a victory for all people who buy cars and you've been nervous. It was a victory for us, and especially for women, because we have a tendency to shrink around salesmen. And so I represented the woman power and the buyer power.
This works. I just need to figure out how big I can dream.
Yeah. And to be as paint as complete a picture as possible. It's not like you get on the bandwagon of the law of attraction or however you call it, and you just tiptoe through the roses the rest of your life. But you have a dream and now you know it's possible. And so you move towards that dream. But what is a dream, Michael? But a place or an experience that we've not yet had that we want to have. And to go to a place you've never been to before will always require you do things you've never done before. And not just visualize. You got to show up. You got to get out there. You got to be involved and integrated in the world. So I had a dream, a belief it could come true. And that would mean I had to, move forward, face fears, become a speaker, meet clients, do cold calls, stuff that scared me to pieces. And so every life goes with highs and lows. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And when you understand what's going on, you don't feel like there's these setbacks. There's like, oh, okay, there's adjustments. and everything plays to your greater good. In the beginning, though, back then, it was still disconcerting when things didn't go the way I wanted them to until a year later. And I was like, oh, I'm glad that happened. Oh, I'm glad it was Saudi Arabia I was assigned to and not London, because I still could visit London, but also Tokyo and Bangkok and Kathmandu. So it's like you see the beauty and the miracles after the fact. And so yeah, I wanted more. But I was also being rocked around a bit. And, you have a tangle with a person or a bad relationship or whatever. And so once you get going, you've still got turbulence in your life. It's just that you're becoming more and more confident that you can get these big picture values done. I can find love. I can live in health. I can rock the financial world, my financial world. And those are big ticket items. Those are really cool things, and they're great for the whole journey, for your peace of mind, for your confidence, etc. But the underlying turbulence for me, I guess you could say, after 6 years with Price Waterhouse, was not only did I want to make more money and live bigger and start traveling even more than I was, and I still was doing it then in the international tax department. I traveled a lot. But I wanted to really love the underlying core of what I was doing. And while I loved the firm and appreciated what I was doing, and while there's lots of creativity in accounting and taxes, it still wasn't really what I wanted, and I didn't know what I wanted. So while I wanted to leap for a bigger, richer life, I was then, because of life's turbulence, getting a little more introspective, like, who am I really? And what would I really love on a day-by-day basis to do? And the best I could think of was to be an entrepreneur. And at the time when I was living in Boston and working for Price Waterhouse, I was literally like, I don't give a flipping yahoo what I sell. If it's widgets or bars of soap, or a hardware store, a bookstore, wholesale, retail, manufacturing, services, I just want to be an entrepreneur. And so when I left cold turkey and didn't even have anything lined up, sold my condo, everything was like lining up for me. Like, here's my window of opportunity, but I don't know what's going to happen when I leap. I moved to Orlando and nothing came. It's like, oh my God, it was just the biggest mistake of my life. But at my mother's urging, my brother and I teamed up. He's a graphic artist, and I was the accountant, to launch a T-shirt company featuring his art on T-shirts. And so we did that because nothing else was panning out. And it was a really slow year. Talk about turbulence. But Mom really had a conviction that we were going somewhere. She joined us, so it was like the three of us. We opened up a retail push cart in a tourist district in Orlando. We opened up a second one. We opened up a store. Eventually, we had a chain of small stores in the Southeast United States. We had a thriving wholesale business. We wholesaled to every major department store in North America for many, many years. We wholesaled overseas, had distributors in Japan and Hawaii, Guam, and Saipan. And it was really a great thing for 10 years. But it was a lot of, people who've read my work or know my life story probably feel about me the way I have felt about different role models or idols or inspirers that have fueled my ambitions early on. And you tend to look at them and you're like, yeah, but it was easier for them. And, well, they had this or they did that. Clearly they had a message. Clearly it was going to get out there. They just needed to bide their time, whereas I am totally lost. Well, it might look like, okay, I had a path and it was going to happen anyway. I can tell you, I remember too well, Michael, there were so many forks in the road where I almost went back to Price Waterhouse. I almost went back to public accounting. I almost went into banking. I almost, there were so many forks in the road and so many sleepless nights where I was worried. And it didn't look like it was going to pan out in the T-shirt business. And then it took off. And then it started winding down and the trends were declining and we were losing a bit of money. And it was like, the ship is sinking. So many forks in the road. Even 17 years ago, after we abandoned the T-shirt business, liquidated for pennies on the dollar, kept the shell of the company. No bridges were burned. But at that point, we all split up and went our own ways. And I was like, now what the F am I going to do with my life? I don't even know what my bliss is. And it's not accounting and it's not being an entrepreneur. So is there anything else? And I so wanted inspiration at the time of a metaphysical nature, like the truths I discovered 2 decades earlier. And since nobody was sending it out by email in the year 2000 that I knew of, that's when I started doing what I'm doing today, without any confidence that it would ever turn into anything, much less snowball into the life of my wildest dreams.
Since we're talking about thoughts becoming things, how did you not, or did you, focus on the turbulence and instead focus on, I don't know where I want to go, but it's someplace better than the turbulence?
That is a dilemma that when we are, let me phrase it this way. Somebody will ask that same question to me, Mike, how do I focus on financial abundance? When every single day through the mail and phone calls, I'm being reminded of how in debt I am. Mm-hmm. Mike, how do I focus on health and healing when every single day through sharp pain in my knees or in my back, I'm reminded of my sickness? And that made me realize, because I've been through these, including the turbulence you just asked about, there's nobody who wants anything, particularly not a great desire, mm-hmm. that isn't simultaneously faced with staring exactly the opposite in the face every single day. There's no such thing. The reason you want it is because you don't got it. And if you want it really bad, it's because you got it really bad in an opposite way. And so everyone who wants to be a deliberate creator, a conscious manifester, is faced with this dilemma. So for your viewers right now, we're birds of a feather. We're all in this together. And any desire presupposes lack. And how do you focus on the end result that you want when you're dealing with the lack or the illness or the loneliness or the confusion? And this is a lesson that how do you focus on surviving at work when everyone hates you and you're getting bad evaluations? This was my first attempt, my first dilemma dealing with the scenario that you have painted. And I remember being so scared that I was going to get fired that it was the first time in my life I decided I was going to do some true, everyday, ritualized, creative visualization. Sit down for 5 or 10 minutes in a dark and quiet room and imagine everything going fantastic. And so, because we hear about this stuff and we watch The Secret and we're like, yeah, I know, I knew that. Yeah, I'm positive. That's good. But when your life's on fire, you're like, I might know it, but my life's going down, so I've got to do something about it. And so that's the first time that I physically had a ritual of creative visualization. And up until that point, I thought, I'm already positive, but then my ship was sinking. So even during my creative visualization, when I thought I was going to get fired, and I'm imagining I'm happy at work, I'm surrounded by friends, the partners are acknowledging me. Even during my sacred 5 or 10 minutes a day, I'd worry about getting fired. I would wonder, is the pink slip really pink? Is that why they call it the pink slip? The traditional old school, if you're getting fired, they give you a pink slip. And I would think, oh, I'm so doomed. I am so doomed. Not only am I doing bad at work, but I cannot stop worrying and thinking negatively about what might likely happen to me. And all I could do was just do my best. And I didn't think, okay, well, I'm worrying during my visualizing, so I'm going to quit visualizing. It's like, no, I'm going to still try. And I prevailed. And that showed me something, Michael, that I teach to this day in a number of different ways, a number of different analogies and metaphors. It's as if our positive thoughts mm-hmm. are at least 10,000 times, and that's, I'm sure, a grotesque understatement, at least 10,000 times more powerful than our negative, fearful thoughts. So you think one little positive thought, you now have license to think 10,000 negative, fearful thoughts, and they'll equal out. So it's really hard to manifest bad stuff if you're at least sitting down and doing your best to visualize 5 or 10 minutes a day. it will always be enough, coupled with demonstrations, acts of faith, coupled with understanding the nature of reality and no longer giving your power away to fate, karma, destiny, spiritual contracts, or an angry God. All these things are important. That's why I have this big body of work. I mean, it's all simple. Thoughts become things, period, end of story. But, what about beliefs? What about emotion? What about intuition? What about affirmations? So we teachers weave a tapestry talking about all these nuances. But thoughts become things. And for a caveat, if there was a caveat, your positive ones become things better, faster, and easier than your negative ones. Why? Well, just through deduction. We're the eyes and the ears of God Almighty come alive in the dream of life. We're here by choice. We came here to rock and roll. We have dreams so that they can come true. We're pushed on to greatness daily. And when you start getting your nature as this intergalactic love, joy being here temporarily because you chose it for the love of it, because you wanted to see what would happen, what mountains you would scale, what dreams you'd make come true.
What is the importance of honoring or loving yourself?
Oh, wow. I look at so many things given my genre and my specialty within the genre, spirituality, and more specifically, deliberate creation. I look at everything through that lens. And so the more you love yourself, the easier it will be to find patience. The more patience, the quicker the manifestation. Truly, quicker manifestation. It won't just seem to happen quicker. It will happen quicker because there's a minimization of worry and self-doubt and contradictions, etc. When you love yourself, which seems like such a tall task, you're not fighting the entire universe. Because otherwise, to not love yourself, you're like, well, this is not right, and this is a mistake, and this shouldn't be that. Look, from the highest within you, you chose to be who you now are. And from that place, you knew what you were doing. Said another way, God most wanted to be who you now are. And God doesn't make mistakes. God knew what God was doing. And so just trust. You are what you are, how you are, the way you are, where you are, through the brilliance of divine mind.
What did Paul Bragg say to you or say to everyone that lit the fire of hope?
He was just an inspired guy. I mean, he helped initiate 1,000 health food stores across America. Mm-hmm. And he was on a mission of a health crusade to try to increase the quality of health in America.
Yeah.
And it was without a doubt his life's mission and his daughter's mission, still to this day. And but his enthusiasm and his inspiration for what he was doing didn't matter what you wanted to do, whatever it was. He had a way of contagious enthusiasm about what he was doing that made you think, I could do it. And he basically said a number of things. He said, number one, that what you think about, what you visualize, what you say to yourself, and how you feel about yourself, and what actions you take is going to determine what you go in life. And I thought about that. And I go, whoa, that's something I hadn't been taught before.
Yeah.
And it was common sense, but it was just not commonly shared. And I thought, I can control those. I can control what I say. I can control what I think. I control what I say to myself and visualize. Could I change my life? And he said that you want to set goals for yourself, your family, your community, your city, your state, your nation, and your world for 100 to 120 years. Because by the time you're that old, people will be living to 100.
Yeah.
And by God, our ages have gone up and it's getting closer towards that mark. So, and he basically also said that you have a body, mind, and soul, and the body must be directed by the mind, and mind must be guided by the most inspired part of yourself, the soul, if you will, the authentic self, to maximize your potential. So these are just some of the things that kind of stuck with me. And I thought to myself, I don't even know how to read. How am I going to do what I saw? And he took us through this guided imagery meditation experience. Mm-hmm. And I saw in that meditation experience a vision of me standing in front of a group of people. And I thought, whoa, where does that come from? And I've been holding that vision, and I've made that vision, and it's painted in my office. It's a big, beautiful painting of the vision that I saw that day.
You are always in alignment with your values. So it may be that you need to take a look at your values because you might be valuing the very thing that you're fighting against right now.
Well, you may be actually manifesting things on an unconscious level in ways you don't know. I had a lady that said, my son is sitting in front of a TV all day long, and all he's doing is doing TV, and you need to have a consult with him and get him straightened out and go out and have him get a job to do this and that. And so I went over and talked to the 16-year-old, the 23-year-old, probably 23-year-old. And I said, so your mom's on your case, huh? And she goes, yeah. I said, and by the way, the mom was paying for everything, so he had no motive to go make money because she was paying for everything, making him entitled and disempowered. You know, I tell people to go take your kids off when they're 2 years old and go get them a job, you know. I'm joking a bit. But this guy was watching TV, and I said, what are you watching? And he said this. I said, what's the most common things you watch on TV? Turned out that it was CSI, forensic medicine. His love was solving problems dealing with crime, and particularly in the health field. And I said, so all the things you're watching all the time when you're watching TV, it's all about those? He goes, yeah. I said, have you ever considered doing that as a career? He says, absolutely. I said, does your mom know that? She goes, no. I said, why don't we go online and see if we can find a curriculum to move you in that direction and see if we can't get you on that path. And he's like going, that is cool, man. And so we started looking, and we found an educational pathway for him to be able to do that. And once he saw classes that allowed him to want to go in the direction he wanted to do, he was on fire. We went to his mom and said, his motive for watching TV is not an escape. His motive is because he's trying to learn what he wants to learn and do his career. She goes, you're kidding. I said, if we put this school curriculum together like this, and he was to go this path so he could become involved in forensic criminal studies, what about that? She goes, you want to do that, son? Says, that is my dream. Why do you think I watch TV doing that all day? She goes, oh my God, I can't believe I didn't see this. We put him on that path, excelled. He excelled on it. So unconsciously, he was doing that. Even though consciously he knew he wanted to do, he was unconsciously watching TV all day doing it. Because the school, he didn't see getting him there, the classes he was taking. But now we found a pathway of classes that allowed him to get what he wants. He's engaged.
How do we then be able to step back and look at our own lives to say, hey, this is the direction I want to go? Because oftentimes, I mean, we just had Don Miguel Ruiz on. Oftentimes, we're so domesticated, is his terminology, by society, by well-meaning people, that we can't even think, what is mine? What do I really want?
Well, you got to look at what you fill your space with, what you spend your time on spontaneously, what really energizes you, raises your energy level, what really do you spend your money on and want to spend your money on, what is it that you actually have ordered and organized in your mind, what is it you're really disciplined on, what are you thinking about, visualizing and affirming in your mind that's actually showing up, that's coming true, that you want. What is it you converse with other people about most? What is it that inspires you most? What is it that you have as goals that are coming true? And what is it you can't wait to learn? If you look at the common threads to those variables, it'll point you in the direction of where you're going to excel. Finding that out is one of the first steps to helping people build a momentum in their life.
Would you say, we could quite literally, I'm a mind map kind of guy because I don't like writing lists, but grab a mind map, grab a piece of paper, doodle, draw, anything, but pull out the magnifying glass and start looking at your life?
Yes, looking objectively at what your life demonstrates is one of the most significant ways. That's why looking at space and looking at what you do in your time, and that's what you're doing. You're looking at objectively, like a drone watching you 24 hours a day. What's really going on? Not what you fantasize about, not what you wish about. Those are delusions. What exactly is your life demonstrating? That tells you what you value. Your life is demonstrating your values constantly.
When we start to figure out our values, and I want to challenge everybody to take this exercise and go do this. Don't just listen to the two of us talking. Go do this.
On my website, drdemartini.com, there's a value determination step-by-step 13-step process they can go do. It's free. It's private. No one will see it except you. Do it now. Do it a week from now, a month from now, and a quarter from now. And look at your real life and be honest about the answers. Don't put fluffy stuff down there. Put what's really there in the answers to these questions. And it will be eye-opening. Because if you're not filling your day with high-priority actions that deeply mean something to you, that you're inspired by, don't expect a very powerful and inspired life.
So, John, if people hear this and they go, oh, yeah, I'll go there, and they don't, what's going on?
They don't what?
if they say, I want to do that, I want to find out what my values are, but they stop?
When somebody says they want something and then they don't follow through on it, it's not really important. What I have people say when I ask them in audiences, thousands of people, I say, how many of you want to be financially independent? All the hands go up, legs even go up. I've seen knees and legs go up. I've seen people lifting their families' names up, their legs up and arms up. They all put that there. I want to be financially independent. Less than 1% do it. And the reason being is because they have a fantasy of living the lifestyles of the rich and famous and buying consumables that depreciate in value. They don't really have a value on buying boring asset accumulation over time that works for you, that makes you money. That's not what they're envisioning. They're envisioning spending money. And that's not where you're going to get wealthy, spending it. You're going to make it by investing it. And so people confuse what financial independence is by that fantasy instead of the reality. And many people have delusions about what it is that they say they want. But your life demonstrates what you're really working towards. And I'm interested in what your life demonstrates, not your statements or fantasies about how you think it could be, would be, should be.
Thank you. So we say we want something. We've taken this. We understand what our values are, and the eureka light bulb goes off, which is huge. I no longer coach anyone where the eureka light bulb doesn't go off, because that's just me like being hoovered. If somebody doesn't want to do the work, I can't make you do the work. It's not possible. But when the light goes on, how do we now? Where do they go for that first step?
The first step is determining what their values really represent. Because if you look carefully and ask them, what do you do daily, spontaneously, that nobody has to remind you to do, that you're inspired to do? They go, I don't know. Look again. Because I've been doing this thousands and thousands of people. I haven't found an individual yet, even a guy sitting on the couch, smoking pot even, that I've been able to find out what that is for each individual when I go down the rabbit hole. But if I just ask them, they're going to say, I don't know. But I go in there and go, get present, answer this question. What do you do every day, spontaneously or nearly every day, that nobody has to remind you to do? And sometimes it's not the fantasy that they're holding, and that's why they're not seeing it, because they're addicted to their fantasies. But if they look at their life, they go, ooh, but they're not honoring what it is. They're comparing it to a fantasy, and they're not honoring what really they're committed to. And they keep fantasizing this and beating themselves up. And Einstein said, if you're a cat expecting to swim like a fish, you're going to beat yourself up. You got to honor you're a cat. You need to find out what that is. Either shift the values to change the trajectory, or honor what the path is.
Would you have people take the time, take a weekend, take an hour a morning where they start to have regularity of being with themselves? I'm not talking meditation. I've been on the cushion for hours where I'm not getting answers because I'm not prioritizing it.
All you need is a minute to ask that question. What is the highest priority? I learned this from Mary Kay, from Mary Kay Cosmetics 36 years ago.
Yeah.
I asked her, what advice could you give a young man who wants to travel the world and inspire millions of people around the world? She said, every day, write down the highest priority actions you can do today that will help you fulfill your dreams. That's simple. So I got index cards out, little 3x5 index cards.
Yeah.
And I sat a minute, thought about what I was grateful for, because I found I was most authentic if I was grateful. And then asked, what is the highest priority action I can be doing right now to help me fulfill what is most deeply meaningful to me? And I wrote it down. Research, write, communicate, whatever it was. And I kept records of that day after day after day after day. What was the highest priority things? And then I looked at what was the highest priority of the highest priorities over time. And it boiled down to 4 things: research, write, travel, teach. I've delegated everything else off my plate. I don't do anything else. I research every day. I write every day. I travel on Zoom now, although normally I'm flying, and I teach every day. I learned that anytime you do lower priority things, you devalue yourself. And anytime you do higher priority things, you value yourself. And if you value you, so will the world. But if you don't value, don't expect the world to.
Thank you. Let's double back then to what you said earlier, because there are 2 ways that we can view things. We can either delegate or we can shift how we're viewing them right now. I love a line from Lisa Nichols, also in The Secret, which is, your job is your investor. How do we make that slight but massive tweak in our minds to get the executive function going when we're saying, I'm not doing what I love right now, and then we go down?
Well, if you're not doing what you love right now, it's because you haven't structured the path of doing what you love in a way that serves people, that you remunerate yourself with. If you don't package yourself in a way that you're actually in fair exchange doing something deeply meaningful that serves people, that earns an income, you're not going to be able to delegate. So you have a responsibility to care enough about humanity to find out what the needs are, find one of the problems out there that inspires you to solve, and get off your buff and get out there and solve a problem where you get compensated magnificently for serving people, and then delegate with the money you make, delegate the rest so you're free to do what you love, making a difference in the world. That's the path.
Woohoo! I call it the law of reciprocity. It's the hardest to teach somebody who is, quote, spiritual, that, dang it, you better ask for what you're worth or you aren't getting what you value.
Well, many people confuse spirituality with this kind of fluffy stuff instead of actually a grounded idea of serving people. Can I share a funny story?
Please, love it.
I had this lady come to me. She was sort of she meditated, she chanted, she burned incense, real mystical, kind of a, flower child from the 60s kind of thing. And she said, what do you do when you've got a husband that's a materialist and you're a spiritualist? Even though the spiritualist means talking to the dead, but she didn't understand that. But she meant somebody dedicated to spirituality.
Yes. And
I said, well, there is no such thing. She goes, what do you mean there's no such thing? I said, there's no such thing. Every human being is spiritual. Whatever they're doing is part of a spiritual path. And she goes, well, I don't understand that. I said, what does your husband do? She says, well, he runs an IT company, computer company. How many employees do you have? 200. And do you work? He goes, no. I said, so you're meditating and doing yoga and chanting and burning incense and contemplating your navel and reading spiritual books all day? And she goes, yep. I said, and you believe that that's more spiritual than a man that's actually giving job opportunities to 200 people, serving millions of people across the world, helping the economy, helping build taxations and helping pay the whole system work? That's less spiritual? Are you sure that he just doesn't have a different form of spiritual expression, and the one that allows you to sit on your buff because otherwise you'd be off having to work? He's paying for that. And then she goes, you got a point there. I said, you're not less spiritual or more spiritual. He's not less spiritual or more spiritual. You have different forms of spiritual expression. What inspires you is meditating. What inspires him is going to work and serving and filling needs across people around the world. Neither of you are materialist any more than spiritualist. You're both dedicated to both those functions in your own hierarchy of values and expressions. And she kind of goes, good point. She says, I've been thinking I'm more spiritual. He's just a different form of spirituality. And we go around and compare people to certain forms of spirituality or certain forms of something. And we have a dysmorphia because we're comparing ourselves to people we put above us or comparing ourselves to people we put below us instead of actually realizing that we're all reflections of each other.
Automatic writing is perhaps the most cutting-edge tool for connecting with the other side, which is why we've written the definitive guide called the Automatic Writing Experience. To find out more, simply visit automaticwriting.com. It's my favorite way to help you to shine bright. Woohoo!